those, but is there any corrections or notes we need to make on the minutes? No? Okay, that's good. And then we'll go to the first item. I believe this is Eileen, or whoever would like to take that over. I'll hand it over to you, staff.
Yeah, through the chair, it's Chris Gannon here. I'll take this over. Eileen is on a well-deserved vacation. This item addresses a bit of a long-standing issue, the Sanka Park Water Supply and Distribution System Specific Area Amendment Bylaw, which in 2019 had gone through first and second reading, and then did not move from there. So that third reading has been on hold for a number of years to provide the owner of the two properties on the north end of the Sanka system an opportunity to investigate and secure an alternate water supply that would facilitate and allow for disconnection from the Sanka system. Over the past few years, we have had limited connection with that property owner. Not until very recently, a few days ago, just before the report was finalized, did we actually connect with that owner and get an update from them. It is our understanding from the owner that they have not made any progress on securing a water license or looking for an alternate source of supply to service their two properties on the north end. My understanding is at least one of those properties is inhabited and is using Sanka water now. So this report is intended as an update to the Water Services Committee just on the progress here and the issue at hand, just as a reminder of this issue. So the issue really lies with that north end part of the distribution system passing through private properties without statutory right of way, and also at risk of potential cross connection and contamination of the water system because it is crossed by septic lines with an unknown clearance and an unknown condition. So unless those septic lines are within or beyond 10 feet roughly of a water line, they can pose a risk to that water system. So that brings us kind of to next steps here. Unable to move forward with a third reading and removal and readjustment of the surface boundary at Sanka without that owner having secured a new water source for themselves. So it leaves us kind of in a risk management position right now, looking at options for us for that line to remove or to reduce risk associated with that. I included a couple of ideas in there in that report for that. Rerouting of the line is of course an option that comes at cost to the Sanka water users, or potentially some sort of backflow control, backflow prevention device on that line. Certainly here to answer questions or provide more information.
Thank you. I'll go to Director Jackman to start.
Yes, thank you. So through the chair, the way I'm reading this is the landowner has, no progress towards a new water license or source, as they indicated they would go to the ministry and seek an application or a license for lake source as their water. Does that mean, sorry, there's a gymnasium above me here in the rec complex, so there's some stuff moving around. Does that mean they haven't applied? Are they saying they haven't even applied for a new water license, or just they have applied and got no response?
Through the chair, my understanding is that they have not applied. The owner has communicated to us a number of personal issues that have been challenging to them, that have caused them to not put this as a priority. We also did not get the feeling from them that they were going to make this a priority in the future. So it's not a water licensing delay issue, to clarify.
Supplemental?
Sorry,
supplemental?
yes, go ahead, just go ahead. I was thumbs upping. Sorry.
No, okay, so we've got two issues with Sanka, one of them being actually a right-of-way issue and a water license application for an independent power project. Minister Cullen, who of course will not be minister, he's not successful in the election regardless of what happens with government, was made aware of this during our UBCM meeting, but his senior staff was sitting in the room as well. And so I would like to see a very proactive follow-up, because we had the ear of people who will still be in senior staff in that ministry, that the issue of our intake right of way, as well as this site, these two properties need to be proactively pursued. This is many years old, and as you pointed out, Chris, there's a risk issue here. I don't want to see us spending money on backflow preventers and stuff like that, just leaving this open-ended forever, because there's another impacted landowner. So if, it could be direction to staff that we get details on who was in that meeting with Minister Cullen, who the senior staff are, follow up with them. We give them longer than our requisite, 150 words sort of outlining our problems. Very specific verbiage as to what's going on here. Ask them for the help with the water license or the statutory right-of-way, which is tied to a water license for another private landowner, and ask them for advice on how we can encourage this landowner to either be proactive or allow us to do something proactive. This can't just go on as that our hands are tied.
Response from staff?
Yeah, through the chair, I can certainly report back on options to encourage this landowner to move forward with that license application process and really find the easiest and most quickest way to resolve this issue.
If I may add to this, so the question is really, so you are talking license for the power license, is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm not. I'm talking the
North properties.
Yes, North property.
So the impression that I got from what I've seen and talked with Chris about is that the property owner has no intentions to apply, and it really comes down to a question. And Chris and I have discussed that we will follow up with ministry staff and see if a service or establishment bylaw amendment that removes the two properties will be approved by the ministry. The item in question is removing properties that don't have an alternative water supply. And normally that is the requirement. But I think here we have a situation where we have asked a long time ago, where we were led to believe they would pursue a alternative license, where we have a situation that these are currently not as permanent residence used properties. They are weekend use, as I understand it. And the additional situation that we do have water that is not compliant is a permanent boiled water situation. If under these circumstances, they would approve the amendment that would remove these properties from our service area. So I think that is really the first key question. And if they approve it, then I think we should proceed as the advisory committee and the director had intended us to proceed with removing these properties from the service area. If they say no, we will not under any circumstances approve it unless they have an alternative water source. Then we need to discuss other options, either service line extension or a discussion with the property owner about potential financial assistance to pursue this, or. But I think the first step is to talk to staff, decision-making staff, in regards to the ability and the approval through the ministry for the amendment of our bylaw to remove these properties. And Alex, sorry.
Sorry, through the chair, I would just like to add another kind of layer to this as well. We had a similar situation whereby we wanted to provide a temporary water service that wasn't permitted by Interior Health as it is in contravention of the Health Act. So Interior Health might also have their opinions on not being able to supply a permanent water source to residences or taking them off a permanent water source without an alternate water source.
I don't know if Interior Health has a say in this, sorry, through the chair. I'm not so certain they have a say in this. This is boil water notice. I think this
Fair
is.
point, yeah, I was just, there was a similar situation, and I know that it is in contravention of the Health Act as it is a source of a risk associated to public health. So I don't know if Interior Health would step in it, but they have in the past in our water system. So I'd just like to add that as a.
I would think if anything, they should be supportive.
Sorry, Uli, procedurally, what I'd like to suggest is Director Jackman's really familiar with it. You have direction to follow up with staff from our UBCM meeting. I would suggest Director Jackman's included in that conversation with staff because he was present for that meeting and he probably has a lot of history in his head as usual. So do we need that as a motion? Or are we good with direction to staff that you'll follow up? Mike would have the notes from the UBCM meeting and just please include Director Jackman in it. And then I think at this committee, there's not much else we can do because we're speculating.
I would suggest this is an action item. We don't need a resolution until we know further what the ministry staff's response is. And I think then we would discuss that again with the advisory committee and the director in regards to next steps based on that.
Okay, and Director Jackman, that works for you? Are you wanting to entertain further debate on this as it's?
Nope, it has to go offline. There's a lot of other issues, but we have a window of opportunity because senior staff will still be there. They were there just a month ago. Let's talk to them, please.
Okay, great. So not to cut it off, but I just want us to stay focused on the item. And I think it is an offline conversation at this time. Not offline, but it's going back to ministry. So take it there and you can clarify the specifications after that. Does that work, Uli? Can we move to the next item?
Yep. Yes, thank
Great.
you.
So the next item is, who's going to take that one? Sorry, I'm flipping screens here. Parcel tax and service establishment. Also Eileen, but either Chris or whoever you'd like to take the lead on just giving us a brief overview on that. And then we do also have a motion for this one. Go ahead, staff.
Yes, through the chair, I'll take this one. The committee report in front of you simply lays out a request to proceed with service establishment bylaw amendments for Duhamel, Burton, Woodbury Village, Ryandale, and Sanka. Amendments to the parcel or frontage tax bylaws for Balfour, Duhamel, Ryandale, Sanka, and Woodbury Village, again, all to support those long-term asset management plans and maintenance of those systems. Certainly here to answer any other questions that aren't that you have.
Yeah, okay, I've got a speakers list. I just want to clarify.
Sure.
And Director Popoff, you unmuted. Do you want to be added to that list?
Yes.
Graham and Popoff so far. Thank you. Just to clarify, Chris, sorry, my words were muddled there. So we're looking to increase the requisition limits on the bylaws. Most of these services already have reserves in place, but we've hit a limit on the parcel tax, but the asset management plans are indicating we need to have more in reserve. So I just want to clarify that point. It's specifically to meet the asset management plan requirements. It does not mean we're actually taxing at those amounts. It's just increasing the limit that we can. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And if I may add to this, this is in line with the 5-year budget that was last year approved. So the future years indicate in all of these services parcel tax or frontage tax increases in order to meet them, if we go forward with them as they were approved in that 5-year financial plan. That requires the bylaw adjustments that are going to be, if this resolution goes forward, going to be prepared for your approval or review.
Thank you. I was aware of that for Woodbury already, so I was just checking that this was that process. So I have Graham, Popoff, and Jackman so far. Director Graham, go ahead.
Thank you. So through the chair, so my only question is really about the table, in this table 1. And just again, I get it that this is, you know, a proposed 25% maximum, that we're not actually saying we're gonna tax 25% in the first year, but this proposed, so the question I'm asking here is about the column that says annual contribution for asset replacement. And it's gone from 112,545 to 154. Like, so what does that mean? Does that mean like we need this like now 4 or 5 years, or is this something we're trying to get to within 5 years?
Get through the chair, get to within 5 years.
Get to within 5 years. So so supplementary, if I may?
Yes, just go ahead.
Okay, thanks. So, so if we did like say a 5% increase for 5 years, that would be okay under this plan?
Through the chair, that's the max that we can
Okay.
do,
Okay.
as per legislation, yes.
Okay.
In fact, it will be, because it's compounded 4% or something like that in the last year.
Okay, just trying to understand. Thank you.
Okay, Director Popoff, you're next.
Basically the same questions. It's 5% of well, roughly about $5,000 a year. Is that correct?
Through the chair, yes, I believe so, yes.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Okay, Director Jackman, I didn't see what item this is, but is this the one you're referencing?
Yes,
ahead.
thanks. So my understanding is, depending if you're looking at the short or long-term capital asset management plan, Riondell's not in too bad a shape. This proposes the heaviest lift, like the 25% lift, but as Uli said, you know, we have projected necessary increases in the 5-year financial plan, but today's 5-year financial plan for this service shows 2024 at 54,991 and 2028, the end of the 5-year plan, at 59,524. So that's only a $4,500 lift over the next, 25, 6, 7, 8. That's less than 10% over 4 years, yet we're increasing the envelope by 25. So until I see the amended budget figures for the 2025 budget, it's hard to tell people, especially the advisory when this comes to them, that we're planning to maximize our lift in what we could tax you for, even though we think over that same horizon, we only need about 10%. We want to create 25% room. I would rather we know that the 2025 financial plan is similar to these numbers, and then propose maybe not the full 25% lift, propose a smaller lift. If we have to do it again, we have to do it again, but at least that's a little more in keeping with what the financial plan actually says service by service. Some of the others, when I look at it, my understanding is the reserves are not in such great shape, and maybe they do need a more aggressive lift. But for Riondell, for example, I think it's overstating the need to tax people a little higher.
So I can go to staff on that one. I do believe because this is the 25% within the 5 years, it's a set amount. I don't know that we can be discretionary on the 10%, but I get your point. So I'll just go to staff. I think that's a legislative amount. Staff?
Through the chair, yeah, that's one.
The 25% is the legislated amount for efficiency in regards to the establishment bylaw updates. We go to the full amount. What the budget amount is a different story that doesn't have to go to this amount and will be subject to annual review through the director and the advisory committee. I'm trying to bring it up. I don't remember Randall automatically, but I'm not sure what we had in there.
I do wonder if it's something where, Popoff, I see you back on the list there. Director Jackman, I'm making an assumption about the 25% because I just know that process, but I think it's warranted to inquire with corporate administration if it can be 10%. I think your point is you don't need 25% and you'd rather only go to the amount you need opposed to the 25. Do I have that correct?
Exactly, or go to the estimate of what we need plus a little bit, but not the max. I'm pretty sure it's up to 25%. May seem more efficient to take more or have the ability to take more now, but that just maybe would give public impression of a weakness in our projections, because one projection is we don't need it and the other one is, well, let's have the ability to take it. I'd rather we match within a few percent. I think if at any time, now is a great time to try and be a little closer to the line. We can adjust it again, and it's not that big a deal.
Can I suggest that when it comes to moving motions, that you move yours at the percentage you would prefer? And just ask staff to clarify that with the legislation. If it needs to be amended, we could do that at the board meeting. Would that work? Okay. Staff, are you good with that? I don't see you, but speak up if you need to.
Sure.
Yes.
So back to Popoff.
Yeah, thank you. My calculator wasn't working that great when I first looked at it. So my question for South Lacan was, it's only an increase of $3,575 over a period of 5 years, which means an increase of $709 per year. That's a question of staff. That's correct.
The $3,500 I know from memory. The other one, the annual amount, the average annual amount is correct as well. I just don't know what we have projected for the upcoming years in that. I'm just bringing that up, actually.
Okay, yeah, but supplemental, if I may, Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so, and I'm looking at the Woodbury Village. I'm looking at the chart right now. It's not a substantial increase. It's a fairly minimal increase for the asset management portion. And the yearly increase for Woodbury is $4,400. I should say 5-year increase is $4,409. When you divide that by 5, that equates to a very small amount. But just a question, we can increase that amount, or is that the maximum that we can do?
Through the chair, that is the maximum that we can do, I believe.
Yeah, the 25% in a 5-year period is the maximum we can do without going to a public consent process.
Yeah, a follow-up. My concern is South Lacan. I think, you're aware of it, Manager Wolf, that we have got old metal pipes in there. So that might be a costly proposition, but that's just a comment. No changes. I'm going to leave it as is.
If we would go, through the chair, if we would go and exceed or feel the need to exceed the 25%, we would have that discussion with the advisory committee and the director, and then jointly determine if it is time to go to public assent for a larger increase. We know I think you're referring to South Lacan, and we know that is a difficult water system in a difficult situation, and we may have to review and adjust that, particularly with recent happenings that we had there. So yeah, we calibrate that year after year, but we obviously, if we feel we have to go beyond the 25%, we would have that discussion about, is it time for a public assent process?
Great, thank you. That explains my question. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. It is good to note that this is the 25% within the 5 years, or at least 5 years has passed. Can I just clarify, staff, a couple of things? One is that if you have a system such as South Lacan, where there is major capital upgrades and you may not have the financing, or the funding in place to do so, and you have a limit, are you aware of what that is before we get to the next budget cycle? And are we repetitive in this process in terms of going to the 25% without considering you actually might need more and you do need public assent? Or is that a longer term plan, and doing the 25% for now will deal with what you need to this year? That's my first question.
So currently in South Slocan, we are collecting $14,000 in parcel taxes. We have a projected need of, on a 25-year basis, of $101,000. So there is a huge discrepancy there. Why have we not started to more aggressively close that gap? Simply because we had increases in operational cost alone that triggered, even with significant and massive user fee increases, with support from the community, we were not able to increase the contributions to reserves. I have to point out there is a community that was very supportive of these massive increases. In fact, we came sometimes with more moderate increases, and the community said, we understand the problems, and we are urging you to go to a higher increase. So it's a very special situation there, and the community is closely involved and supportive and fully understanding of the criticality that this water system is in.
Okay, so staff is confident that 25% works for now. And my other question, and then I'll go to Director Cunningham, is what was it? Advisory committees will see these before we actually bring it back to the board. Is that correct?
Through the chair, we've got a meeting scheduled in the next week with the South Slocan CAC. So yes.
Sorry, I was not being specific to South Slocan. I was being specific to all of our advisory committees that will be, you have budget meetings coming up with them. So is this going to be a part of what they provide input on?
Through the chair, yes.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Director Cunningham. Now you're muted. Sorry. Hi, Kitty. There you go.
Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, there's two of us talking. I hope you don't mind. The cat's probably got more sense than I have. At least it's better looking. And in any case, no, what I wanted to say is, or I need confirmation, down cat. I need confirmation that it seems to me that parcel taxes are, well, they go on our tax notice, of course, but because they're a parcel tax on the tax notice, it seems to me they're eligible for the homeowner grant. And that makes them somewhat a little less of a burden than a normal just part of the fees we pay. Could I have confirmation of that?
Through the chair, yeah, I can confirm that. We also included within that report under social considerations that some homeowners will be eligible for BC property tax deferment program. So I mean, yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Yes, and of course, South Slocan's problems have been a long-standing thing. It happened way before the ministry said, listen, you guys got to fix it and put out an order, because the people in charge of the system 35 years ago didn't believe in raising things or fixing things. They just wanted to keep costs as low as possible. And as a result, work that was supposed to be done 30 years ago wasn't done. And so now this is the fix they find themselves in 30 years later. I'm really glad to see that they're going ahead with it. And that's just a comment, because it does need to be fixed. And you feel so much better when you know everything's right and nothing's going to blow up in the middle of the night. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Cunningham. So directors, we do have a motion. Director Jackman, it's direction to staff to prepare them. So would you like to move that with an amendment that your system is at a 10% increase?
I don't feel I need an amendment, because when these come to us, that's when we maybe will tweak numbers.
Okay.
A little further, let me first, if I can, move the motion, and maybe I'll speak to how I think this could play out. I will move staff recommendation as per the agenda.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Popoff. Discussion, go ahead, Jackman, and I'll watch chat for furthers.
Thank you. So there is a dilemma, because say in Riandell, we're putting in about 100,000 into reserve every year, but the parcel tax is almost 55% of that, almost only half. Now, in theory, if the parcel tax pays for the major long-term contributions, then yes, we should be raising aggressively the parcel tax so that a heavier percentage of that requirement for contribution to reserve comes through the parcel tax to pay for the renewal of that fixed infrastructure. If you do that to staff and put 25%, they say, yeah, let's do that, then go ahead and actually raise the parcel tax and in the same year, at the same time, reduce the fee so it balances. I just don't want to put a message, oh, we're going to charge you the same user fee and we have the ability to tax you much more heavily on parcel tax. The way to make this resonate, go ahead, do 25% on one, tax it today, right away. Get us up to that required, projected contribution, annual contribution to reserve, ASAP, next few years. At the same time, reduce the consumption fee, the operational fee. So that would be a good strategy to me, and I look forward to see how the bylaws might be worded and how the advisory committees in every community think about that, because we should be putting the proper taxation for the proper purpose on the right line in our budgets. And I don't think we're there right now.
Thank you, Director Jackman. And while I know your comment is related to how staff might prepare your budget, we, of course, at budget can give that direction as well. So just making sure we all know that. I know for Woodbury, my parcel tax is my asset management plan. My utilities is my operations, but it's a smaller system. And I did get a fabulous $500,000 grant to upgrade recently through the feds. So I feel we're in a pretty good position in terms of that policy, kind of unspoken policy around parcel taxes, capital, operations is your utility fee. Sorry. I'm looking for other speakers. The motion's on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. I don't have anyone else.
Sorry, Chair, if I may.
Oh, yes.
So one of the considerations always is, and as you said, this is an unwritten guideline or whatever, that we are trying to match the asset renewal through our taxation. That's a goal that we have, aspirational goal, but we are open as staff to work with the community if there are intents to do that differently. Director Cunningham has already indicated in his community it was supported to have a higher tax portion for the reasons that he has named. And we went in that direction the last years when we did the increases so that we have a higher tax portion and a lower user fee portion. If that's intended and the community feels strongly about that, then as staff, we really are not pushing one way or the other, because for us the important part is that the bottom line is right and that we have a long-term sustainable revenue to manage this system. One of the considerations sometimes is that the taxation triggers a collection fee through the province. So 5% of the top is going for the collection of these funds. So that can be a motivation for a community to say, no, we would prefer to have a higher user fee portion versus the taxation. So we as staff are open for these discussions. That is something the community has clearly a say in, or the advisory committee giving us advice, what they hear within the community. So we just want to point out that we are not stuck on that formula, but we just use that in order to say by a separation taxation for asset replacement and user fee for operations, it makes it very transparent where the money is going.
Thank you. I have two more speakers. I just want to note, let's not get too far down the road of what occurs at budget time. This is increasing the bylaw limit so that we have flexibility during budget time. So I appreciate where you're going with that, Uli, but I'm just keeping us out of the rabbit holes right now because you're going to repeat all these conversations. Also note that 5% levy is on the total accumulated tax bill, not the individual per service tax. Go ahead, Director Cunningham, and then Director Weatherhead.
Oh, yes.
You muted yourself.
a different machine in its back. Anyway, am I okay now? Thank you. Through the chair, Willie, in Weimar, of course, we use a frontage tax rather than a parcel tax, which means the larger parcel, larger your piece of land is, the frontage, the more you pay, and we pay by the foot. And that's the way the town decided way back in the 80s, because they think that if you've got a big parcel of land and you can possibly use way more water on it, watering the lawns and gardens and things like that. So therefore, it should be fair that you should pay more, because the other idea of the frontage tax was that it should be paid technically for the frontage. In other words, for putting in the mains. And if you've got more frontage, you should be paying more. And the town thought that that was way farther than just the same amount per parcel. And that's the way we've gone ever since. And I just mentioned that because I think others may wish to change to that kind of a thing. It seems to be way fairer, and people understand then why, if you've got 192 feet of frontage, why you pay $300 or $400 or whatever it is. And further talking about relating it to the other thing about it going on to taxes, if you're a poor little widow living in a tiny little house on a 30-foot frontage, you don't pay much frontage tax, but you do get a big deduction on the homeowner's grant. Thank you. Just for comment and perhaps consideration by the others.
Thank you, Director Weatherhead. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't want to take away from this conversation, but I just I'll probably spend some time diving into a better understanding of this. But on the Burton parcel tax, I see we're sitting at a pretty high level there already for the maximum. Does this parcel tax, through to the staff, from Chair through to staff, does this parcel tax apply to our residents who are on the rate holiday? Did they pay for the parcel tax, or is that part of the rate holiday? Just a sideline question.
Through the chair, yes and no. So we do collect from BC Hydro the equivalent of that taxation, but it's not run through the tax system. So yes, it is paid through BC Hydro for the rate holiday properties, but it is not run through the parcel tax system as it is for properties that no longer have that rate holiday.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Seeing no further hands in the chat, all those in favor? Anybody opposed? Thank you, that passes. And on to the next item, which is, I gotta scroll back up, number 7, water system advisories. So we received this for information. Does anybody have any questions, or do staff want to speak to it?
Through the chair, I don't have anything additional to add, but again, free to answer any questions on the report.
Okay, so I'm just going to flip back there. Does anyone have any questions on the report? Okay, next item then is, oh, I should have another screen going. Water operations and capital project update. Same thing. Does staff want to reference anything or give us an update, or just entertain questions?
Through the chair, I'll just open it up to questions. I won't go through it point by point, but happy to answer any questions.
Directors, do you have any questions? Weatherhead, go ahead. I saw your hand there. Oh, and in the chat, quick, go for it.
Thank you. I just actually have more than one question, but I'll start with the first one. On the Burton capital projects, we are looking at well rehabilitation and pump replacement. First of all, 2 questions on that. Which tank are we referring to? Is my first question through to staff.
Which tank? Sorry?
Number 1 or number 2 tank?
Oh, this is for the well rehabilitation. We completed well number 2 a year and a half ago, so this would be well number 1.
And okay, thank you. And supplemental to that, do you foresee the same issues with this pump as what caused well number 2 pump to problems to occur, because that ended up requiring quite a considerable amount of overhaul.
Through the chair, yes. So essentially what we did is we did the exact same procedure that was completed a year and a half ago, and this is more of a proactive approach. The well pump themselves were nearing end of useful life. Actually, they had exceeded it, to be honest. So this was a proactive approach to rehabilitate the well, eke out a few more years out of that well, and then of course replace the pump. So we're set to, you know, continue supplying water reliably out of those 2 wells.
Okay, thank you. And so the cost of that is going to be in the same ballpark?
It is, in fact, almost identical.
Okay, not good. All right, thank you. My second question, sorry about this. So in the also in the next thing on capital was the consultant selection for water main replacement design plan for 2025-26. Is that just the design, or is that the actual work of that water main replacement that we're proposing for 2025-26?
Yeah, through the chair, apologies, that is a bit misleading. The design will be completed this year for both phases 1 and phases 2, phase 1, 2025, phase 2, 2026. So that timeline more refers to the construction periods, but the design will be completed this year in anticipation for an RFP being put out early in 2025.
Thank you. And supplemental to that, so I don't see the means of which we would have to pay for this. And is there, will I get a little bit of more understanding coming forward on how that would happen, so that, I mean, I don't know how much is going to fall on the from the accounts of our residents. It's not a very big population on that water system.
Yes, so through the chair, this has been planned out from reserves. So the money has been set aside.
Great, thank you.
And you should see that through the budget process. It'll be detailed.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I have Graham, then Hanegraaff, and go ahead, directors, if you have supplementals, unless we're going down a rabbit hole, go ahead and ask your supplementals. So Graham was next.
Thank you. So just two quick questions. One is regarding Balfour, the licenses for secondary water sources. Those are both those wells up in the Queen Bay Resort. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Okay, so they're both done. Great. And what, with regards to the lake intake additional work, is the line moved or is it floating? Like, what's going on? Does it need more anchor?
So through the chair, yeah, the intake line needs to be secured to the bottom of the lake.
Okay.
So that hadn't been completed and needs to be completed. Yeah.
There was anchoring there, sorry, through the
Sorry.
chair, there was anchoring there. It appears some of it is corroded away.
Okay.
And there's clearly need for improvements in order to secure that line appropriately. And screen was a problem too?
Yeah. So I think the screen, that portion was anchored, I think, and perhaps maybe I didn't get the story right, but I thought that there is portions toward the shore of the lake that need to be secured as well. So a portion of the line was secured and a portion of it needs to be additionally secured.
Okay, the only reason I'm bringing this up is we had some of the lines there, the cable line that's in the same vicinity. There's a short cable line going across, and that had a boat anchor had been caught on it.
Yeah.
And we had actually had that repaired, like within the last year. Okay, so just people are fishing near there. So that can, that's why I was asking, is it moved or is it starting to float?
It's not starting to float, no.
Okay.
But it does need some additional securing just to make sure that, we had a similar incident happen where, somebody pulled off a part of a screen. So yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if there's interest in it, there is video footage from the diving that shows the condition of the line, the screen, how it is fixed. So if somebody has a specific interest, we could provide that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Hanegraaff.
Hi, just briefly, the West Robson asbestos cement pipe replacement. I'm wondering where we're at with that. I had, phone calls and emails when it first announced that we were going to do the work. Then I haven't heard anything for quite some time, which makes me wonder.
Through the chair, yes. So we've had to actually change scope on the original project. So we're replacing PNO2 instead of PNO1. So instead of replacing that line that's going up to the reservoir, we'll be replacing actually a more important line, which will be from the pump house that feeds into the system. So we had to change scope. The consultants then had to have a closer look at what made more sense, where to put the new line. And we will be moving on that project early in the new year. So that's why we had to delay the project, is because of the revised scope. But I'm happy to update you once we get more of a plan in place. But it would be, yes, it's a completely different line at this point.
So the line that was going through the personal residence and all of that is not being replaced now? The one that was on private property?
Correct, yes. We will still be replacing a section of, as I said, a section of the distribution system that's even more crucial to the supply of water. And we still will be removing the asbestos cement pipe as planned for the original scope.
I think it sounds like Director Hanegraaff needs an update on the project. If you
Yeah.
that, Alex.
This is the
Yeah.
first I'm hearing of it, so.
Yeah, through the chair, we did have quite a bit of difficulty with the initial scope of the project. Julie can speak to that.
Yeah, I would suggest we make a separate meeting out of that. It's very involved, very complex, the situation. And I suggest, Alex, if we can schedule a meeting, the three of us with the director to have that discussion, because there's a lot of background information that needs to be shared as part of that.
Okay, that'd be good.
Thank you. And I do know with my own work in Woodbury that between the consultants and Interior Health, Director Hanegraaff, there was a lot of moving pieces, and I only got updates when they kind of had a finale on what the move was. So sometimes we can be out of that operational loop until staff are really clear on what the direction will be. So sometimes it can be jarring to hear that, and then other times it's because they're still figuring it out.
Well, I mean, I thought we had a clear direction, so this has caught me a bit by surprise, but the three of us will talk about it.
Okay, great. With that, I have one you might want to also just update me on outside of this. Well, first, I'm just going to ask on the Woodbury, how is the commissioning process going? Is that close to the end, Alex, or are we still in the midst of that?
So we are still in the midst of it. Ideally, the EHO likes to see about 6 months worth of data before there's any movement on rescinding any type of water quality issue. And I think we're in just finishing up September's report. So October, likely we'll be into the new year before. And again, 6 months is just an estimate. It really is dependent on the EHO and how they view the data. So I can't say for certain it is in Interior Health's hands.
Okay, thanks. My second question is the one that actually involves fire services as well as water services, and that's the hydrant proposal. And there were staff changes in both departments, so it did kind of get delayed a bit. It crosses two different services. So I just am curious if Chris is up to date on that, if it's still a conversation I'm having with the fire chiefs, or is that I'm anticipating that I'll be looking as part of the Woodbury budget this year to support that hydrant proposal. So I just want to ensure that we're where we need to be able to consider that.
Yeah, through the chair, through you. It is on the budget plan. So you'll be seeing that through the budget process. It's definitely recognized there in the budget.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, Alex, I don't know why I assumed it was Chris. I lose track of who moves where.
So
So
fair enough. Yeah, no, that's no problem.
I still think he's building, so I'm still catching up. Okay, so this one had no motion. This was for information. I don't see anyone else in the chat, so we'll move along to the next item, which is staff reports. Yes, Chris has some staff reports for us. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, through the chair, just a verbal update on a couple of items. One, the acquisition plan. Not a whole lot to update the committee on here, except that we've got everything live. The message is out. Uli will, of course, have to check his emails to see if anything's come in from interested small water systems in the area that may not have gone through the proper channels. So can certainly update on that. But yeah, our Become an RDCK water service is looking good. In addition, we also have a request from Water Services Committee to staff to look at options to assist improvement districts and other small water systems in the area who may not become an RDCK water service, but certainly are in need of support given some of the limited options for them as far as support from the province goes. So I mean, what I've done is updated the website with some additional resources for improvement districts and other small water systems that might help guide them through some of the day-to-day operational and asset management and financial decisions that they need to make. I do plan on coming back to the Water Services Committee at the next meeting with some more detailed options on how utility services might be able to provide some assistance to those small water systems that don't become an RDCK service, but still need some assistance. Though I think communication in the past has really highlighted some constraints, I guess, with that approach. How far do we go? I'm hoping to clarify some of that and give some options that range from small amounts of effort, but hopefully good information from RDCK staff out to those that need it, to maybe some more enhanced options that have a more heavier staffing component and resource component. So certainly willing to take any questions on the acquisition process.
Thank you. I have Cunningham. I just want to check in with you, Chris, on did you say you had posted on the website where the acquisition policy is also posted some guidance or resources for small water systems? Did you say it's on our website?
Yeah, it's on the RDC. I think it's on the Become an RDCK water system page. So right at the bottom.
Can I just ask staff to send us that link? Because I think it'd be good to
sure.
look at. Okay, great. Thank you. Director Cunningham, go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I think it should be noted that under section 9, where it says staff reports, that we use the word water and wastewater systems acquisition policy, because I don't want to acquire any wastewater. I just want to acquire the system. There is a difference. Could we put the word systems between wastewater and acquisition in the future, just because?
Well, we do have ponds no, we don't. I'm kidding. We don't want wastewater. I get the edit. Staff, can we just be clear? We're acquiring the systems, not the product.
Not the product. Exactly. Thank you.
Through the chair, I can confirm that we are.
We figured. Thank you.
We'll have to talk to Joint Resource about that one if we did that. Okay, directors, do you have any other questions? It sounds like next meeting, in terms of those small water system supports, just noting for staff that is one of our bigger conversations. It's definitely very subjective to what we've all experienced as directors. I want to encourage staff to also don't forget that we're advocates, because I don't in any way, envy your positions nor ours when it comes to trying to provide essential services in really geographically sparse regions that are also mountainous. This is not easy stuff. So in your recommendations, I think it would be helpful to identify, and we will help you do so once we get to that conversation, what the advocacy pieces are. I know in the 10 years that I've gone to various ministers and MLAs with Director Popoffs and Director Jackman and others, the understanding of small water systems in our region has never been understood. It's never been heard, and it seems really simple to them. So I think that this is a twofold approach. It's not just how can we support, but it's also really bringing the province up to speed on how difficult this is to do. So just wanted to add that for your report, and to note whoever, if our next meeting is December, I believe then, and it will be Director Newell, that we should give that conversation some time because it's a big one. Okay, anything from anybody else? I'm going to flip my screen for a minute. Water System Community Advisory Committees, Ryandel Water and Drainage Service.
Through the chair, sorry, we skipped over one of the verbal reports. I was going to provide a verbal update on the Creston Alternative Water Supply Study.
Please do. My apologies.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, an update on the Creston Alternative Water Supply Study. At the beginning of the month, we went live with an Engage RDCK page intended to really get the message out there that the study is underway, and we're looking for stakeholder engagement and information from stakeholders. A public meeting in Creston is scheduled for Thursday, November 7th from 3 until 6 p.m. We've got an information poster up on the website, as well as at Creston facilities as well, hoping to get the message out there. I believe there's an advert for the meeting going in the Creston Valley Advance on Thursday as well. So again, just trying to drum up and engage those people. And additionally, before Eileen left, we did send out a letter to Erickson customers. I believe 87 who've got an agricultural connection, informing them of this study and the public information meeting on the 7th, as well as including a survey that we've drafted up that's both available on the website, and we also sent it out via hard copy in that mail out, hoping to glean a little more information on agricultural users, current crops, potential future crop mixes, given the long-term drought and climate impacts that we've seen in the valley, especially on some of the soft fruit crops, as well as their willingness to pay for a future system. Building infrastructure for agricultural use in the valley will not be a small project. So really trying to gauge interest in the valley agricultural producers on a system like that. So I encourage the directors to certainly spread the message around. We're trying to get the message out, hoping to have good turnout at this public meeting. Now at that meeting, we plan to present some options, what this might look like. So our consultant, Associated Engineering, is currently drafting up a number of information boards and a presentation for that meeting. Again, hoping to get some feedback and communication with the group in Preston on that. Certainly here to answer any questions on the study, on the progress, or on the scope.
I'll first check in with the Creston ABC, and if any of you have questions. Looking good? Okay. Can I just check in how Yakanuhi is involved in this? I know that the watershed plan itself, which is a different project, they are definitely involved in, but is Yakanuhi involved in this?
Through the chair, yes, they are. We've engaged them early on in the process, as well as through our consultant. Yes, they are engaged. We've got a data sharing agreement with them They've got a professional hydrologist who's working with them as a water coordinator who's undertaking studies and also producing some peer-reviewed research on Goat River flows. So both scientific research and marrying that with some traditional knowledge of the Goat River watershed as part of, I think it's a 2 or 3 part study. So we've got one paper from that Yakanuki water scientist who's been helping inform and that we've been engaging with throughout the process.
Okay, great. Am I unmuted? Yes, I am. Okay. Okay, that's great. And directors, if it's a pretty big conversation for your area, it covers several areas and a First Nation. So if you do at any point want to reach out to me or have me at your meetings, let me know. Okay, so it sounds like there's no questions on that. Kelly, you just unmuted. Go ahead.
Yes. So further to that, we had a conversation on this before, and that was the disclosure of the information flow. And I believe that, Chris, what you just referred to, that type of information is going to be shared with us. Is that correct? Thank you.
Through the chair, yes. So we've got a data sharing agreement with Yakanuki that we've got open sharing if we request data, which I will, on that study. Part of that data, or at least results, are public information with some of the scientific journal articles that are coming out now. But yes, we will have that information.
And supplemental, if I may, can you be more specific as to when and how we'll get that? Do we have to request it? Is it just going to flow naturally? Thank you.
Through the chair, by request.
And well, if we don't know that the paper's been done, how do we know to request it?
Through the chair, the paper has been done and the monitoring is ongoing. So the data collection is ongoing. That data collection and that information, I will make a request and we'll have in hand.
Thank you.
Everybody's squares changed. I'm just checking. Director Dumas, it's okay if you turned your camera off. I just want to make sure you can still hear us. Jackman, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to leave this maybe for a separate conversation, but maybe because Director Vandenberg asked that question. I thought we were going to get briefing notes when we had staff contact with Yakanuki staff so that we kind of had an idea what's available, what's not available, what's happening. And briefing notes on many of these conversations can be really short, at least keep us aware that something's moving ahead and that maybe either there's some report we can ask for or something we can anticipate. So I don't know if we made it broad-based that we wanted to, because of the interconnection we have and the importance of some of these conversations with another governing authority. My concern is that our staff are representing the regional district from a technical, operational, and their wealth of wisdom, but not from a governance authority. Whereas within Yakanuki, there may be some assumptions that something said by RDCK will now become what the board has supported or is going to support. So briefing notes would keep me abreast of how things are evolving. So then Director Vandenberg might not have asked that question.
I'm just going to add something here, Director Jackman. I totally agree with you. Within the sustainability service, where we do have overlapping conversations occurring. Hi, sorry, I'm on the computer. My son's out of school. Sorry. That we did make a motion that any conversations or involvement where there's staff to staff and elected on either side are involved, that we do want to be kept appraised of that. So I want to just echo that in this committee, where I won't assume that CSLAC staff shared that with water services staff, but the request is, yes, please keep the directors updated, provide those briefing notes, especially in regards to engagement with First Nations. Do I have that correct, Jackman?
Pretty much, and my understanding is CSLAC staff are directly involved. Paris is one of our more knowledgeable people in this whole endeavor.
Should be. So staff, can you do that, please?
Through the chair, certainly.
If I may, Chair?
Yes.
There was as well the request for a governance to governance meeting that got stalled first with the summer break that Yakanuki Council had. And then there was the request that in one of their first meetings, they had that discussion about the willingness and timing of a meeting of that nature. And more recently, I was unfortunately, or fortunately, gone for a month or so. So this hasn't proceeded, but it's still on my to-do list. So I will follow up with Yakanuki staff where that sits on their side in regards to setting up a meeting, governance to governance, in order to have that exchange. I believe that was the request from the directors to have that meeting. Is that still the case?
Yes, I can confirm it's the case, but we do need to discuss with the executive as well, because this is not the only conversation that is occurring with Yakanuki. And I think we need to be strategic in what we're asking them for and how many times we're asking for it. So yes, that's the short answer. Second one is, before you do that, please do check in with the executive on all the other overlapping conversations that we need to have with Yakanuki, because for them, they're all one conversation. They don't have the different departments we do. So we need to be cognizant of that. Vandenberg, go ahead.
Thank you. And to Uli's point, as it turns out this morning, attending with the Kokanee egg release and Summit Creek, spoke and talked to Robin Louis, the counselor, and he just happened to mention that he's looking forward to us in their council and RDCK getting together. So it was nice to hear that from him. I was a little bit surprised, but I'm just sharing that with Uli. They are aware of it, and they appear to be looking forward to it.
Thanks, Dr. Vandenberg. Okay, then we are on to the Community Advisory Committee for Ryandell. Do you have, I'm going to flip my screen here. Do staff want to take that, or it's just an update? Discussion notes. Any questions? Jackman, anybody? Go ahead.
Didn't go in chat, but I'm just going to say it's good conversation because this is our only drainage system. So clarity is being, we're moving to clarity on which culverts, which ditches, which structures are going to be under our service versus Ministry of Transportation. That's good. And then on the water side, there's always issues. Good conversation. I like the way this format is going. It was easier, I think, for community members to have a conversation in the advisory format, even though I was a little apprehensive about it. The only thing I regret is only 2 of the 4 community reps could make it. So long as we can give a little better lead time and make sure everybody can make these conversations, that's the only improvement I could look for.
Thank you. Staff, any comment from you? Or are you good?
Good.
Good. Okay. Then we will go to public time. We have 1 member of the public online. I don't know if anyone's in the room. Does anybody have questions for the committee? Going once, just making sure people can unmute should they need to. Okay, not seeing any then. We will be closing the meeting to the public. I'll take a motion to close the meeting to the public.
So moved.
Thank you. Second, Hanegraaff, discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So if the member of the public can disconnect, or Emma, if you can remove them from the meeting, please. And motion to recess the open.